It was a little past midnight when I heard the door slam. The sound echoed through the empty hall, sharp and final, like the house itself was gasping. I pulled the blanket tighter around my shoulders and listened, my heart already heavy with the familiar rhythm of dread. He was home, my stepson. The clock ticked once, twice, before I heard him stumble into the living room, muttering something under his breath that dissolved into laughter. That laughter was always the hardest part. It wasn't joy, it was hollow, like a cry wrapped in alcohol. I rose from the couch slowly, unsure if this was one of those nights I should stay hidden, or one of the nights where he needed someone to see him before he fell apart completely. He was slumped against the couch when I walked in, his jacket half off, shoes still on. The smell of whiskey clung to him so strongly it almost filled the air. His eyes lifted to me, unfocused, tired, and yet burning with something that wasn't just drunkenness. "You're still awake," he murmured, his voice a mix of surprise and bitterness. I wanted to say something simple, something harmless like, I couldn't sleep. But the truth was, I never could on nights like this. I sat across from him, careful to keep the coffee table between us. "Rough night?" I asked softly. He scoffed, leaned back, and stared at the ceiling as if the answer might be written there. "It's always a rough night," he said, his voice breaking somewhere between anger and exhaustion. His words carried the weight of everything that had gone wrong since his father remarried. I had tried to be patient, to earn his trust, but every kindness I offered felt like an intrusion. Yet, seeing him like this, so lost, made it impossible to stay detached. He pressed his hands against his face, his shoulders shaking. "He doesn't even notice me anymore," he muttered, voice cracking. "He's got you now, you don't get it." I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that his father loved him, that families just took time to fit together, but the words caught in my throat. I had seen the distance too, the way his father avoided conversations that might reopen old wounds. We were all pretending to be okay in a house full of ghosts. I got up and poured him a glass of water, setting it beside him. Our hands brushed, just for a moment, but it was enough to make my pulse quicken. I stepped back immediately, guilt washing through me, though I hadn't done anything wrong. He looked up, eyes glassy but searching mine for something. Maybe understanding, maybe forgiveness. I didn't know which frightened me more. He drank the water slowly, his fingers trembling. "You shouldn't have to deal with this," he said quietly. The words were almost kind, almost gentle. For a second, it felt like the walls between us had cracked, letting the smallest bit of warmth through. I should have walked away then, but I didn't. The next morning, the house felt different, still tense, as if it remembered everything that had happened in the dark. The smell of stale whiskey still lingered in the air, mixed with the faint scent of coffee I had brewed to fill the silence. He hadn't said much after that night. He'd gone to his room, shut the door, and stayed there for hours. I told myself he just needed time to sober up, but something about the way he had looked at me kept replaying in my mind. His eyes had been too clear for someone drunk, like he was seeing me, not just as his stepmother, but as someone who had stayed when everyone else had walked away. That thought shouldn't have felt like warmth, but it did, and I hated myself for it. When he finally came downstairs, his face was pale, his hair messy, eyes heavy with the weight of regret. He avoided my gaze, sitting quietly at the table as if the chair might break beneath him. "You don't have to say anything," I whispered, sliding a plate of eggs toward him. He didn't touch it. Instead, he rubbed his temples and muttered, "I said things I shouldn't have last night." I wanted to tell him that it was fine, that drunk words are just noise, but we both knew that wasn't true. There had been something honest in his voice, too honest to ignore. The days that followed were strange. He started spending more time at home, helping me with small things like fixing the leaky faucet or carrying groceries from the car. Each gesture felt like an apology he didn't know how to put into words. I tried to treat it casually, to smile and thank him the way I would anyone else, but every interaction left me unsettled. The distance between us had changed. It wasn't measured in rooms or silence anymore. It was something invisible but tangible, like a breath we both held and didn't know how to release. One afternoon, as I was folding laundry, he appeared in the doorway. "I'm sorry for being such a mess," he said, voice low, almost shy. I looked up, startled. His expression wasn't one of arrogance or pity. It was raw, stripped down. "You've been kinder than I deserve," he continued. I set the shirt in my hands aside and told him that everyone deserves kindness, that pain doesn't make someone undeserving. He nodded, but there was something in his gaze that lingered too long, as if he was trying to memorize my words. That night, I found him sitting on the porch, staring out at the quiet street. The moonlight softened his face, made him look younger, almost innocent. I sat beside him, careful to leave space, but the silence between us felt different, closer somehow. He spoke first, his voice almost a whisper. "It's strange," he said, "how peace can hurt too." I didn't answer. I just looked at the stars, pretending I didn't understand exactly what he meant. The rain began that evening, slow and steady, tapping against the windows like a rhythm only the house could understand. I was in the kitchen, washing dishes, trying to quiet the noise inside my own head. He had been distant all day, quieter than usual, and though I told myself it was just the weather or the weight of his own thoughts, I could feel the heaviness in the air every time he walked past me. When he finally spoke, it was from behind me, his voice soft but close enough that I froze with my hands still in the water. "You don't have to keep pretending you're okay," he said. For a moment, I couldn't tell if he was talking about himself or me. I turned slowly, meeting his gaze. His eyes were tired, but not from drinking this time. There was something else there, something unguarded. "I'm fine," I said, forcing a small smile, but my voice trembled. He shook his head, stepped closer, then stopped himself like he had crossed an invisible line. "You're not?" he murmured, almost to himself. The air between us thickened with everything unspoken. I wanted to move, to step away, but my body felt anchored, heavy with confusion and guilt and something dangerously human. He ran a hand through his hair and let out a shaky breath. "I don't know how to fix this," he said. "I keep trying, but it's like I'm always the one breaking things." His words cracked open something in me. I saw the little boy he must have been once, standing in the wreckage of his parents' choices, still trying to make sense of why love always seemed to leave. Without thinking, I reached out, resting my hand on his arm, not as comfort, not as affection, but as understanding. His skin was warm, trembling under my touch. He didn't move away. The sound of thunder rolled in the distance, a low warning that made the lights flicker. We both looked toward the window, but neither of us said anything. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was alive, pulsing with everything we shouldn't feel but did. He finally took a step back, his expression tightening with restraint. "You should go to bed," he said, voice hoarse, eyes fixed anywhere but mine. I nodded, trying to breathe normally again, trying to pretend that moment hadn't happened. I went upstairs, but sleep wouldn't come. Every creak in the hallway, every shift in the wind made my heart race. When I finally heard his footsteps outside my door, they paused for a long moment, too long. My hand hovered over the doorknob, but I couldn't bring myself to open it. After a while, his footsteps faded, and the silence felt heavier than before. The rain kept falling, washing against the glass like it wanted to erase something neither of us could take back. And as I lay there staring into the dark, I realized that some boundaries don't need to be crossed to be broken. They just need to be felt too deeply.